Hello and welcome to Ukrainian Flames, a special project by Ukraine Crisis Media-Center, Analytical Center of Ukraine Catholic University, and NGO Euro-Atlantic course. My name is Victoria Zabian. I'm head of the UCMC Press Center, and today our topic is how many more weapons does Ukraine need? More than 25 states understood that military support for Ukraine is the best peace plan. They have joined the efforts to supply and deliver weapons to Ukraine's fighters. And what kind of weapons Ukraine actually needs and who can provide it, that's what we will talk about today with our experts. Please subscribe our channel in order to stay tuned. And we would like to start our video with emotional message from the journalist from Izum, Kharkiv Oblast. The city is surrounded by Russians. The humanitarian situation in the city is terrible and dramatic, and people who stay there are screaming for help to reflect the attacks of invaders.
Я хотів би сьогодні звернутися до журналістів, до медіаспільноти, особливо до тих, хто живе за межами України. Нам сьогодні потребує не тільки журналістська солідарність, Україна потребує різноманітної допомоги, гуманітарної, військової, будь-якої. Я хотів би, щоб ви донесли правду про те, що відбувається на Україні. Це ніяка не спецоперація, це повномасштабна війна по знищенню, по геноциду українського народу. Путіну не потрібен Донбас, і Путіну не потрібен Крим. Путіну потрібна вся Україна. І Путін хоче знищити всі 40 мільйонів українців.
Mykola Beliskov, who is an expert of the National Institute for Strategic Studies, recorded detailed and comprehensive explanation of Ukraine's needs. Let's listen to his long but very important analysis.
Hi everyone, my name is Mykola Beliskov. I'm an analyst at the National Institute for Strategic Studies and the President of Ukraine. And in this video, I'd like to touch upon the issue of what kind of defensive armament Ukraine need and maybe would need in the nearest future. So the issue of a defensive armament is very important for Ukraine since this all-out war with Russia, which started on the 24th February of 2022, as it's about the compensation and alleviation of a disparity of potentials between Russia and Ukraine. And on the one hand, we have an example when our Western partners rushed with systems that are very easy in exploitation and integration in our armed forces, namely systems like anti-tank weaponry of different kind and man-parts. These systems are very important in the context of the strategic defensive operation we are conducting right here, right now, and they complement more heavy weaponry in our arsenal we have from the Soviet Union period. And of course, these systems like anti-tank guided missiles, like more lighter granite launchers, they were widely employed in the context of this month's warfare, past month's warfare, and with a huge success because we destroyed quite a lot of armor, and also there were instances of a destruction of the sophisticated air platforms with man parts. But if we talk about what Ukraine need, of course, the very first issue that was raised by Ukrainian leadership was the issue of defensive systems for the air domain. Despite the fact that Ukraine displayed examples of the very successful usage of the systems of the Soviet origins, like surface-to-air missiles of S-300, Bukem-1, and the Soviet fighters like Su-27 and MiG-29, we can't fully alleviate the numerical advantage Russian air forces have. That's right that even now the skies over Ukraine are contested, which means that Ukrainian air forces Ukrainian surface-to-air missiles are quite successful in contesting the airspace. And on a daily basis, we have news of the number of planes, helicopters, cruise missiles, reconnaissance UAVs been down. But if we look into the future, sooner or later, we would need foreign fighters, foreign surface-to-air missiles, either provided to Ukraine or been employed by our partners to guarantee that airspace is still contested. Because if we imagine the situation that Russia is able to gain this supremacy in the air, of course, it would weaken the ability of Ukrainian armed forces to successfully continue its strategic defensive operation. It was and rightfully, it was the very issue that was raised from the very beginning, from the 24th of February 2022, in Ukrainian negotiation with our Western partners. Alas, we don't see the readiness of our Western partners to provide us with sophisticated fighters of the fourth generation or surface-to-air missiles of the middle range. All we see is a readiness to provide us with manpads, like Stinger manpads. Also, UK produced Streak manpads. These manpads, of course, are very useful, but they have, of course, some limitation. The major limitation of manpads, of course, is their range, and it's the height of their work, which means that you need to have quite a huge density of these systems to be in the right place in the right time, to be able to find the target and then to shoot it. Of course, given the fact that our Western partners provided us with hundreds of these systems, it means that we are able to employ them in mass, and we are able to contest the airspace even using the manpads, and with the fact in mind that Russian airplanes and helicopters are not that sophisticated, so they need to lower for more precision targeting, given the fact that they are using dumb bombs, and it allows us to shoot them as it plays these planes or helicopters within the range of manpads. But still, manpads only about alleviation of this Russian quantitative advantage, and they can't fully compensate for the integrated air defense, which is composed by the three major parts. First of all, it's a network of radars that are able to detect planes at the furthest ranges. It's a network of the surface-to-air missiles of the 50+ kilometers, and also it's a plethora of fighters. And only in combination you can ensure that airspace of Ukraine is a contested one. Along with the issue of the defense in the air domain, lately I see the change in the rhetoric of the Ukrainian leadership, along with pleas with a request to improve and guarantee proper Ukrainian air defense. We see that now Ukrainian leadership is asking the heavy systems like tanks, like tube and rocket artillery. And as for me, it's a very timely request, because again, I see this tendency that people, they comprehend how Ukraine is able to repel this Russian offensive, not in the right way. So people think that mostly are employed systems provided by the West, so these anti-armor systems, manpads, and maybe Bayraktars. But only alone with the Soviet systems like main battle tanks, like rocket and tube artillery, we are able to successfully repel this Russian all-out war, this Russian major offensive, and we were able to make Russians stop on the major axes of their advances. So, but on the other hand, we don't have right here, right now, the production for the ammunitions for the main battle tanks, for the artillery. So the issue would be about to replenish the stock of the ammunition for the systems in the nearest future, either through the provision of the ammunition in the storages of the countries of Central and Eastern Europe that use the same artillery system of the Soviet origin, or in some time about the provision of the Western artillery systems. Because again, as I say, it's a combined arms warfare, which means the employment of different kind of weaponry, not only light anti-tank weaponry, but also much more heavier systems. And again, alas, Russia has advantage in firepower. They have more long-range missiles. They have greater density of artillery systems proportionate to their forces. And on the other hand, Ukraine has only very limited amount of these heavy systems like Tochka U, short-range ballistic missiles like Smerch, multiple launch rocket system of the range 70 kilometers. So it's not only about air defense, it's also about ensuring that Ukrainian artillery, which guarantees 60-70% of the destruction of the enemy, continue to work. Also, the issue was raised that Ukraine might be provided with these loitering munitions or kamikaze UAVs of switchblade type that have a proper range of 20-30 plus kilometers. But as for me, it only about alleviation of our Ukrainian needs. So even if we imagine the situation that Ukraine is provided with loitering munitions in major quantities, they would only complement artillery systems, but would not remove the need to have a proper amount of artillery system and proper number of ammunition for them. Of course, there are other issues in terms of not only weaponry, but maybe platforms in general that we need. First of all, it's about mobility. It's about some transport to make our forces more mobile, because right here, right now, we have instances where volunteer organization, they are buying these all-terrain vehicles of civilian type in Europe, in Western countries, and then they transport them to Ukraine and provide them for these light units equipped with anti-tank means for them to be able to find and target Russian armor columns and quickly switch their position after successful destruction of armor, of enemy armor, and so not to be able to be to ensure that they are not targeted by the enemy artillery or air forces. So it's not only about equipment; it's about the proper level of mobility. And alas, right now we don't see the readiness even to provide these more civilian all-terrain vehicles. I'm not talking about military grade transport like Humvees, like joint light tactical vehicles, but it's about more civilian type all-terrain vehicles. And according to some sources, we need at least 10,000 pieces of these vehicles to ensure a proper mobility. Another issue, of course, is command and control and means of communications that ensure the proper command of control. Right here, right now, our volunteer organizations, they are compensating for the fact that we don't have a proper number for the secured communications. But again, we need a secured communication of a military type, not a civilian type, but of military type, to ensure that they are resistant to the electronic warfare. So to sum it up, we appreciate the assistance that we received, namely anti-armor weapons of different kinds that complemented more heavy Soviet weapons, and also manpads that complemented Soviet air defense systems. And it's not only about the air domain that was a major topic of interest, a major topic of discussion, and a major topic of request from the Ukrainian side. If we imagine the situation that conflict is turning in a long-term confrontation, which is indeed the case because we already passed the first months, which means that the fate of Ukraine, the fate of this confrontation would be decided not only on a battlefields, but also in a field of mobilization, the field of military mobilization, the field of industry mobilization, the ability to get the proper equipment, like artillery and ammo to it, like means of mobility, like command and control system, and other types that ensure that Ukraine is able to continue its strategic defensive operation to weaken the offensive capabilities of the Russia, to weaken fully and to fully stabilize the front lines and to lay the groundwork for possible one or two major counter-offensives. So we are in a phase when we need to talk not only about air defense, but when we need to talk about artillery and ammo to it, and also when we need to talk about means of mobility and secure command and control devices. These are the major types of the weaponry that Ukraine need. And of course, we also will continue to ask for the air defense, and even if US is ready to provide us with some Soviet legacy system it gets in Central and Eastern Europe, it means that only sometimes would be gained for the major decisions. So we would return to the issue, please provide us with Western fighter planes and Western surface-to-air missiles. And also it's about the proper means of destruction for the land warfare, because as I said, it's a combined armed warfare. It's not only about light anti-armor system, it's more serious systems that, like artillery, that we would need to replenish in the nearest future, and alas, we don't have production. I hope you would find this message clear, and I hope it would persuade you. Thank you very much.
And we continue with Igor Kozy, military expert, and in fact, he confirms everything that was said before. Let's take a look and listen to him.
Яка зброя сьогодні потрібна Україні? Ну, по великому рахунку, ми повинні чітко взяти з розуміння ті завдання, які будуть стояти перед Збройними силами України. Основне завдання сьогодні фактично закрити небо. Для закриття неба нам потрібні ті засоби, які здатні знищувати ракети, які рухаються по балістичній траєкторії. Ті засоби, які сьогодні можуть знищувати бомбардувальники, які знаходяться іноді на дуже високій висоті. Однозначно нам треба знищувати крилаті ракети. І для цього, в принципі, треба знайти найбільш ефективні засоби, які використовують. Якщо ми ставимо завдання сьогодні звільнити Україну від того, що в нас є, то ми повинні чітко зрозуміти, що нам потрібні протитанкові засоби. Ті засоби, які здатні знищувати броньовану техніку. Нам необхідно сьогодні мати засоби, які здатні знищувати так звані підрозділи підтримки. Це в першу чергу маються на увазі бойові вертольоти. Тобто знову ми кажемо про переносні зенітно-ракетні комплекси. І якщо ми кажемо про живу силу, то в залежності від того, де вона, чи вона наступає, це в вигляді, вибачте, нам потрібно буде ті речі, які знищують живу силу на відкритій місцевості, і крім іншого, нам потрібні засоби, які фактично знищують броньовану техніку і живу силу безпосередньо, яка окопалася. Тут вже ми переходимо до ракетних військ і артилерії. Но саме основне, на мій погляд, сьогодні треба знищування командних пунктів і пунктів управління. Це є дуже ключовим моментом. Цей ключовий момент полягає в тому, що засоби радіоелектронного виявлення і боротьби, вони є в сучасному світі дуже важливими. От виходячи тих завдань, які на сьогоднішній день, на мій погляд, стоять, от і треба виходити і брати відповідне озброєння. Крім іншого, є певна загроза використання кораблів в якості отряду загону кораблів вогневої підтримки або в якості ракетних катерів, загонів ракетних катерів. Тому що вони можуть з моря наносити такі ж самі удари, як і авіація може наноситись. Відповідно, протикорабельні засоби і засоби, які дуже швидко зможуть здійснити знищення от всіх цих речей, які виникають по тим завданням, які були озвучені, на мій погляд, є сьогодні дуже важливим. Що із них найкраще, що із них найгірше, те може тільки показати бій. Тому, коли ми обираємо виробника, країну або засіб, ми повинні в першу чергу розуміти, наскільки буде ефективність того чи іншого засобу для знищення тих цілей, які будуть виникати або в обороні, або, вибачте, в наступі для фактично звільнення нашої території від російської навали. Дякую.
So this is how military experts assess the needs of Ukraine in this war that was started by Russia. You've been watching the episode of the special project by Ukraine Crisis Media Center, Ukrainian Catholic University's Analytical Center, and NGO Euro-Atlantic course, Ukraine in Flames. In description to this video, you can find the information how personally you can help Ukraine against Russian aggression. And if you find our job useful, please like, share this video and subscribe our channel. Everything is gonna be Ukraine.